Our focus for today is Elon's $8 billion hangover from the sale of stock relative to his purchase of Twitter. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Thanks once again for joining us. If this is your first time, welcome. If you're a repeat visitor, welcome back. We also want to thank our Patreon supporters. Your support is greatly appreciated and makes all the difference for the viability of the channel and therefore is appreciated. We also wanted to take time to encourage you to like and subscribe as well. So today I wanted to focus on the fact that there seems to be a hangover when it comes to Tesla and so there seems to be a hangover between the markets going down at the end of last week, and then Tesla's stock seems to have been languishing since news came out of initially a $4 billion sale of stock by Elon, but then an $8 billion plus sale. It's one or the other. He definitely did sell shares. He definitely filed with the SEC regarding selling those shares. There's a challenge here right now where I think it's going to take the market at least 3 or 4 days to fully assess what it means that Elon is actually doing this. So I have to say I'm a bit stunned right now for a number of reasons. And what starts to happen with a big cap stock or a big capitalization stock like Tesla is if there are new developments and the new developments weren't pre-planned, this can introduce all kinds of issues. So one of the SEC rules is that people that are CEOs usually aren't allowed to sell shares without it being pre-planned by months, maybe even more time, like a quarter, because those filings give the public an opportunity to review either the sale or purchase in advance and know what's going to be done so that they can bake it into their calculations of buying or selling the stock. So I'm hopeful that Elon doesn't get in any kind of trouble relative to this recent sale. There was a filing, but the filing seemed to happen after the sale had been done, is the impression I got, or people may not have noticed it until afterwards. So one of the problems that's come up over time is sort of handicapping what's going on within Tesla so you can know how to invest or trade the stock. And I'd have to say this is a brand new metric to have the stock drop 100 points, 120 points as it did, and then finally the news coming out of what happened there. The one argument to be made relative to this is without other news or the market tanking at the time, there is a question of supply and demand. If there's a lot of new supply of shares, kind of where are those shares coming from? We've experienced Tesla or Elon buying shares to exercise in an orderly fashion so he doesn't lose some of the option grants that he has as a routine, but this is a new animal to have him cut $8 billion worth of his ownership stake. So kind of what does it mean? Is he going to be buying more? Is he going to be selling more? He's claimed that he's going to be not doing any more sales. Is this a big deal? Now, for somebody who has 20% of the company, it's worth $1 trillion. His value of Tesla's shares is $200 billion. If he's selling $8 billion, let's say it rounds up to about $10 billion, that is definitely a sale. It's, I guess, 5% of his ownership stake. And so it's big, but it's not that big a deal. There's another question that's sort of opening up here that kind of doesn't make any sense, which is for the last several years, as you'll notice, Elon hasn't been getting hit with big tax bills. And the reason is that if he needed cash, he could simply margin against his share ownership of Tesla. And frankly, you could do the same thing. So if you have, let's say, $1 million in shares, you can get a margin loan for up to 50% of the value of those shares, let's say $500,000, and the interest that you would pay on that margin loan would be tax deductible as a business expense. So it's a beautiful way to retain ownership, and then you don't sell shares and get hit with a big tax bill. Now, in the case of Elon, one other thing that's a real head scratcher is, Elon, if you need $8 billion, why would you sell shares? And the reason is that you could simply get a margin loan and it would be faster than the selling process and doesn't tank the stock. But more importantly, what's very strange is that he sold their shares and their long-term capital gains, so let's say it's 35% that he has to pay, but he probably triggers certain year two rich markers, so possibly Elon is giving up half of the value of shares sold in the form of a new tax bill. So the head scratcher is, why not just margin? You get to deduct the interest and there's no taxes that you owe, versus adding to the tax bill that we saw him paying off when he did the large sale at the end of last year. And so now he's getting less money out of the shares because of the taxes he had to pay. So I think this is another example of a question of, well, Elon, what are you doing, man? Because yes, you're getting money out by selling. No, it's not a big deal because it's only, 5% of your holdings. But all these other questions emerge. Are you going to sell again? Are you going to do it on short notice? If it is on short notice, are you going to sell even a larger amount than you currently did? And then another question is, well, why didn't you give us a month or two notice so we can anticipate that this would occur and hit the stock hard as it did? None of these questions are being answered. I mean, a valid argument would be, hey, I'm actually busy buying Twitter, so I needed to manage my ownership and stock differently. So that's a new variable in the process I used. This is another new element. Wait a second, before you had a process going where there was actually no, in essence, you were doing no sales. Elon only owned one public company, and that was Tesla. So now he's buying another public company and has money and shares tied up in it. So on one hand, all the changes that were made is kind of no big deal because it's only $8 billion of his $200 billion ownership stake in Tesla. So in theory, it should be no big deal. But the question that's making people nervous is, has something happened to make a big change in his attitude and approach towards Tesla? And this is not a one-time occurrence. This is going to be an ongoing theme. Now, I believe that, you have all the questions that I've posed there that the marketplace doesn't have an answer for, and Elon may or may not choose to issue a statement on it. I have to say, based on some things I've seen him do in recent past, Elon has not only entered the boredom zone, he's entered the zone where he needs to trim his time into Tesla, because what he admitted is that he can get very bored with how well things are working and then start introducing perfectionist items that he wants sort of addressed within the company. And then all of a sudden you have the company moving in directions where it's a 3 or 4% incremental impact in terms of what has to be done, but it could actually suck up a huge amount of management capital. A great example that comes to mind is the gull wings on the Model X and the door handles. Those gull wings almost put the company out of business, but it was a really cool feature. So instead of Elon diving into cool new features that might jeopardize the company, he's allowing Tesla to continue to work through its product portfolio list, including the Cybertruck, including the Roadster, including the Semi. And then we'll see all of these entities finally rolled out and done. And now he has freedom to start roaming again, which he sort of cannot do now because there's a lot to be finished factory-wise, etc. But a lot of those decisions have been made, and he really enjoys the technical and management challenge of really interesting new things. And frankly, Twitter seems to be that new thing for him to expend some energy and time in, and we look forward to how all this is going to work out. I'm pretty sure he has some good ideas there, and most of what people have suggested he's going to do is kind of negative in terms of too much free speech that creates a lot more problems than not. Underestimating Elon's impact and the benefit to the public, I don't think that's a good idea. I just think we should wait it out, see what he's going to say and do. But in the interim, I'd have to say that there's a bunch of chaos that's been introduced by the sale of shares, etc. And I really feel like where the stock is was sort of bouncing back from market dips and moving forward. But now we have all these unknown questions opened up as a can of worms for Tesla that is a whole bunch of unknowns that don't represent easy answers for the investing public to get comfortable with. So we look forward to keeping track of this and updating you, but I legitimately can see why the stock might go sideways until some of these questions are answered, and then everyone can regain their confidence in Tesla, given that it's doing terrific on every frontier. So please share your thoughts on how and why this is occurring, but that's generally our thoughts. Next, we wanted to review our usual health tips. Today I wanted a reminder in terms of a small salad of something of that ilk, to limit the amount of energy that's used digesting that food prior to lovemaking. So that would be our tip for the day. At any rate, we again want to thank you for joining us. We look forward to your comments on this. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Tschüss German, au revoir French, Lehitro, Hebrew, Choda Hefes, Farsi, Strazute, Russian, Ni Hao Ma, Chinese, Kambawa, Japanese, Heido, Swedish, Asante, Swahili, and in Jamaica we say enough respect, walk good man. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day and bye for now. And we very much look forward to your comments, all of this. And we look forward to Elon's comments on all this as well. Have a great day and bye for now.